Hey guys, and welcome to FaithWorks Designs. I'm Faith, and today I cannot wait to show you this bag. It is so super cute and tiny and it's adorable. It's the Kellie from Mekaposh bag patterns. Mekaposh patterns are just put together in a way that I normally wouldn't do a bag, but the way that it's constructed makes it really cool. This is one of the ones that I like to do because it gives me the opportunity to learn some new skills and learn a different way to put a bag together. And I love Mika's patterns for that reason. The second reason I love her patterns is because, look at it, it's adorable. So there are two different patterns, ways that you can do the handles. So the first one is the way that I've done it here. This is the way that I'm going to show you in the video. The other way is you can use rectangle rings right here to connect your handles to, and then that way your handles, if you wanted them to just kind of like fall off to the edge, they could be like that. It's up to you, whichever one you want. There's some options in the pattern, which is great. We love options. We have our D-rings on the side so that you can connect your strap, and then on the inside you have a nice recessed zipper. I really like how the recessed zipper kind of came out. When you open the zipper, you have got a zipper pocket, and then on the other side you've got a really nice size slip pocket. This purse is so cute and I cannot wait for you to see it. So let's get started. Alright, so I've got my pattern pieces A-I-I and A-I. You're going to need to make sure that when you cut your side pieces out that you're mirroring them, because if you cut them out both the same direction, they're not going to fill into those grooves like they're supposed to. Next thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need to grab your piece A-I-I, and you're going to need to make marks. So I'm going to lay it like this. I'm going to fold it back, and these little marks right here are going to be something that you need to have a marking tool for. And I just line everything up, pull that back, and then make my mark. You're going to want to do it on the top and the bottom. And then flip this over and do it on the top and the bottom. Now that I have those marks, I'm going to know where my panel piece on the front is going to match up on both the top and the bottom. So I'm going to grab some double-sided tape just to kind of hold it in place. I'm going to put two pieces on there, and then we'll take the whole thing, I think, to the sewing machine. I would definitely use like 1/4 of an inch double-sided tape if you have it. I don't have any in stock right now. It should be coming in soon. But you're going to line up the line that you made on the top and the line that you made on the bottom like that. You're going to do the same thing on the other side. Now we're going to take it to the sewing machine, and you're going to need to, with like a 4-stitch length, come down and top stitch all the way down this side, and then top stitch all the way down that side. Alright, so I have got my stitch length out of 4. I have no idea what size needle I have because one of you guys needs to come out with something to help me remember. Alright, so I'm just going to go slow, and then I'm going to back stitch 1, and then I'm following the foot on my sewing machine, and so kind of going along that edge. You kind of want to take your time with this because it is going to show up, and you want it to look nice. You're going to be putting a lot of effort into this fancy bag, so just take your time. Also, I completely forgot to mention it, but on the edge of my vinyl, before I laid it down, I took my lighter and kind of lightly went along the edges and kind of melted the edges so that I don't have to worry about that unraveling. So just to let you know, because I forgot. Alright, so it should look like that. Now you want to go on the other side and do the same thing. Alright, so I didn't have to move you around. We've got our front all top stitched. These two side pieces are connected. Next thing I'm going to do is grab piece A, and A is going to go at the top. Now this is the tricky bit, remembering which side is up and which side is down. So the kind of rounder bit, I think she changed to be the top. So that's what I'm going to do. Honestly, guys, it really doesn't matter. But if you have the roundy bits towards the top of the bag, it's going to give you more room for those handles, and it just kind of looks nicer. That's what I did with my first one, and that was a happy accident. But anyway, we're going to take piece A and put it right sides to right sides, and I'm going to clip that together, and then we're going to take it to the sewing machine, and with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, we're going to sew that together all the way across the top. Alright, so we're going to be sewing at 3/8. I am so used to a 1/4 inch. Alright, so what we're going to do, I have my little handy dandy measuring tool, and I have my little magnet because I visually cannot see 3/8. I can visually see a 1/4 inch because it's what I do all the time. So you're going to get your little thing here. You've got 1/8, 2/8, 3/8. So I'm going to take this at the foot of my machine, and right where my needle is, I'm going to put that 3/8 mark there, and I'm going to take my magnet and put it in place right there. That is my 3/8 seam allowance. I'm going to change my stitch length to a 3, and then I am going to definitely back stitch. And while we're here, I'm going to go ahead and remove my magnet, cut my threads, and then we're going to go ahead and top stitch while we're here. You need to set your machine to a 4 to do top stitching if you have an industrial, and then we're going to push this back, and then I'm going to top stitch right along the top. Back stitch 1, and make sure when you're kind of like resituating stuff that your needle is down. Alright, now let's go back to the table. Alright, our front panel is looking great. Make sure that when you're top stitching, especially because this isn't interfaced, that you're not getting a weeble wobbly line going across the top. I know sometimes if you don't pull with even pressure all the way across, it can kind of like hills and valleys. You know what I'm talking about. So just make sure that it stays with the same amount of pull when you're trying to top stitch it. Okay, next things next is you need your Decoville Heavy. Now I don't have any Decoville Heavy because I normally don't ever use it. So what I've got is some Peltex, and I went ahead and cut it out the size of the pattern piece, and then I added some double-sided tape to it. In the pattern, she wants you to glue the Decoville Heavy on in place. I am just going to take my paper off, and I'm going to go ahead and place it there. It'll be fine. It's going to be in kind of like a canyon, so it's not going to move anywhere anyway. And then you're just going to kind of follow that curve and place it there, and then take your other one and do the same thing. Okay, there you go. Now, I'm going to get my handy dandy fractions ruler because I am challenged when it comes to 3/8. So I'm going to find 3/8 on my ruler right here, and then you need to mark along the bottom at 3/8. And just mark all the way across. And then along the top, we're going to mark it 1 inch. Okay. Now that that is done, we're going to move on to the next step. Alright, the next step that we need is to grab the interfacing for the front panel. And what you're going to do is, with your Peltex or your Decoville Heavy in place, you're going to take your interfacing, and I'm using Decoville Light on that. You're going to line it up underneath of the 1 inch, and then along the 3/8 along the bottom, and then as best you can, I like to kind of iron in the center first around all these curves, and then I went back on the edges and ironed so that it was in place. So let's go do that. Alright, so we've got that all ironed on, and then if you haven't already, go ahead and get your bottom panel and your back panel and go ahead and interface them and get them ready to go. Now we're going to go to the sewing machine, and we are going to top stitch around our little Peltex that we put in there, and we're going to do our best to use our sewing foot to kind of follow along and feel where we need to put these stitches. if you wanted to, and you've got a good marker, some sort of fabric marker that will come off, you can go ahead and mark it if it would make you feel more comfortable. The marker that I have will not come off, and so I'll have to see it every time I look at it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my sewing foot on the edge of the Peltex and then just kind of follow it all the way around. Alright, so this is a part where you really want to take your time, right? I've got my foot, I can feel the edge of the Peltex, I've got my foot right over where the part A meets up with that front panel, and I'm just going to kind of hand crank it down to make sure that I'm, yep, right where I want to be. And then just take your foot and then follow it all the way around. This is going to be kind of hard, but again, just take your time. I can see where my foot is pressing against that Peltex, and that's how you know that you're following the Peltex on the side. And you're going to get that nice little shape. So I don't know if you can see it from there or not, but you can see over here, see how it kind of went in the ditch on that side? I'm just kind of following along. And again, this is something you're going to kind of want to go slow on, because it is going to show. Alright, so I'm going to follow this all the way down and go ahead and fast forward through this, but basically you need to do this on both sides. Alright, so our front panel looks really good. For my second go, it looks a lot nicer, like it's supposed to. I really was able to follow my foot along, and I think that's why the Peltex is so nice, because it does kind of stand up a little bit higher, and my foot was able to follow that. So just a thought if you wanted to use Peltex instead of Decaville Heavy for that one spot. Alright, our little handle pieces is the next thing on our list. What you really need to do is, again, take your lighter and just kind of lightly burn the ends so that this won't unravel. I went ahead and I put double-sided tape on both sides of my pieces. I'm going to take the smaller of the two and I'm going to line it on top of the larger one, and I'm just going to stick it in place. Now she has you go around and stitch on the smaller one first, and then when you're putting it on the purse, go around the larger one. The way that I'm going to show you how to do it today is to just do your stitches on the outside, because I found when I stitched my last bit of stitches on the outside, there was a lot of gap between where the handle was sticking up. Hold on. There was a lot of gap between where the handle was sticking up and then where you stitched on the outside. So that's why I'm going to have you guys stitch on the inside of the larger one. We're not even going to mess with stitching on the outside here. We're just going to go on top of that one. And then I'm also going to have you go back and make a little stitch right here, because as you can see, when you're going to top stitch it, these handles have to go somewhere, right? So unless you've got a cylinder arm, you're going to have to pull this handle out of the way so that you can top stitch it. So that's why we're going to take a little extra time. I'm so glad I made one first so that I can go back and show you guys how we're going to fix that. So go ahead, get all of your smaller pieces attached to your larger pieces just by double-sided tape. And I'll do that off camera so you guys don't have to watch all of that. We're going to grab your two rolled handle pieces, and I am going to use some, again, 1/2 inch double-sided tape, which is not the best, but here we are. I need this to fold over 1/4 inch, so I'm going to put it 1/4 inch in on both sides. Okay, now that that's done, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the paper, and I'm going to make the sides go down 1/4 inch. We're going to do that on both sides of both of our handles, and then you're going to bring the sides together and just try and get this as straight as you can. If you had regular 1/4 inch, it would just kind of naturally fall where it's supposed to, but alas, apple frass, I let my 1/4 inch not be ordered when I should have, so here we are. Alright, now when that's done like that, you're going to want to fold it in half, like that, and then clip it together. Just like that, all the way down. My thick double-sided tape may be a hindrance when I go to put the tubing on later, but we shall see. Alright, so I am going to go ahead and do the other one off camera, and then we're going to go to the sewing machine and we're going to base stitch this closed. Alright, I've got my straps all clipped up. Next thing we're going to do at 1/8 of an inch, we're just going to go down and sew them together, making sure to back stitch when you get started. And then just keep the edges as close together as you can. Alright, while I've got you here, what I'm going to do, in the pattern, the edges to the top don't get sewn down. It just gets sewn down around here, and I hate having these open and just kind of how it looks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start about 1/8 of an inch in, and I'm just going to sew 1/8 of an inch down until I get to about 1/8 of an inch on the other side, just to give it, I don't know, kind of a more finished, a continuous stitch. There you go, that's what I'm looking for. And I'll show you in just a second what it's going to look like. So when I go to start top stitching and attach this to the front of my purse, I'm going to start here, go down and around and back up again, and I will stop right there. So it'll look like I've sewn all the way around, and that just makes me feel better. So I'm going to do the rest of those like this. You're just going to pull your stitches, your thread to the back, and then cut them and burn the ends. And if you don't want to do this step, don't do it. I'll show you, you know, when I get finished with it. If you like the way that it looks, go for it. If you don't, it's not going to hurt my feelings. Don't do it like that. Alright, let me go finish these, and then we'll go to the next step. Alright, so we are on to handle construction, and there's a couple of things that you're going to need. So we're going to need our handles that we just made. You're going to need your 1/4 of an inch clear vinyl tubing. She used like water tubing, and when I went to Lowe's, this was a whole lot cheaper. So I grabbed this up. I think it was like $6 or $7. And make sure that it's like 1/4 of an inch, because that fit pretty perfectly. You're also going to need your front panel and your back template with your cutout so that you know where to place your handles. Now, on mine I'm going to do just a little bit of a tweak, because I noticed on my first one that the handles kind of weren't staying up. They were kind of floating out, which put a lot of pressure on this side of the bag and your stitches here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use, instead of 1 rivet, I'm going to use 2, and that way it'll stay in place. Hopefully it'll take some of the stress off of these, and so hopefully it won't look as bad. But we're going to do an extra stitch, and I'll show you in just a minute, to make sure they don't go anywhere. So I cut my tubing to 13 inches instead of 14 inches. That's going to give me a little bit more room on my handle to be able to put those 2 rivets in. And that double-sided tape is coming back to haunt me. I figured that's what was going to happen. I'm going to put this on off camera, because I have a feeling this is going to take me a minute. So I'm going to put this off camera, and then I'll show you what I'm going to do with the rivets and all of that. Alright, so my tubing is inside, and I went ahead and kind of put it together like this, and then just made sure that my tubing was in there, kind of in the same spot. So I have the same amount of tail of this side as I do on this side. That's going to be important. You don't want just a little bit over here and then a ton over here. You just need to make sure that they're even. Next thing I did was I took this piece on your back panel for your placement panel, and I traced it onto a separate sheet of paper, and then I went ahead and put my rivet holes where I want them to be on my handle and where I want them to be on my bag. And what I'm going to do is, so that I can see the handle, I'm going to place it on my template and make sure that it's past that rivet, and then I'm going to turn it over, and with my marking tool I'm going to mark those spots. So I'll have my 2 holes right there. I'm going to do the same thing and try to make sure I got my marks on the same side. Which I guess it doesn't really matter, not entirely. Okay, and then fold it over like that. Make my mark. So basically you're seeing if it's where you want it when you place it on your bag, and then turning it over and making your marks. Alright, so I'm going to do that to both of them. And then I'm going to take it to my cam press. If you've got a hole punch like this, that'll work. I'm going to use my cam press and I'm just going to press those holes so that I can stick my rivets right in when I'm ready. I'm going to do both sides. I'll show you in just a second. So your handle will look like that. Your holes are already there. And then we're going to find our front panel and take our template and we're going to line it up. And then I'm going to find the 2 holes that I have marked on my handles. So not the center one. So if you're doing 2, you need to do it. You need to make some holes above that and below that. So I'm going to mark this one and this one. So I have my 2 holes. I'm going to take this to my rivet press. Put it, I know you guys can't see what I'm doing, I'm sorry. But I'm going to punch out those holes. So now when I grab my rivets, I'm going to be able to put my handle here, put my rivets through, and then add everything together. Let me go grab my rivets and then we'll do that part. Alright, so I've got my rivets. The first thing I'm going to do is take the one with the stem, and you're going to decide if you want your handle this way or if you want your handle this way. I'd probably do it like this, facing up. Alright, so I'm putting it through the top one and then the top rivet hole of my first one. Turn it over and put my cap on top of that so that that is in place. Now I'm going to take my second one and do the same exact thing, and that's going to hold it in place until I go and smash it down. So I'm going to do the same thing on the second side or the other side. Put my rivet in the top, turn it over, and then put my cap on. And get another one with a stem, put it through on the bottom, and put the cap on. And that is what your handle is going to look like. If it's going to help us or not, I have no idea, but I did 2 rivets because I wanted it to stay. When I go to push it down and smash these down, I'm going to put my handle straight like that and then smash them down, and that should make it stay straight. Either way, it's not bowing quite as much as my other handle did, so I'm happier with that. Alright, let me change out my dies and then we will smash those down and go on. Alright, so I've got my dies changed out. What I'm going to do is just put it in my rivet press and squish them down. But before I squish them down, I'm going to make sure my handle is nice and straight. And I'm going to do the bottom rivet first. And I'm going to take it out and make sure my handle is straight. I'm going to keep my hand on the handle and then smush it. You see how nice and straight that is? That's what I wanted. Alright, so we're going to do the same thing to the other side. Alright, so much better. Okay, now I'm going to go do the back panel, and I'll record it, but I'm just going to kind of go through it fast, in fast mode, because it's basically doing the same exact thing as you did with the front panel. So let me go get that ready and then we'll do that. Alright, so I have got my handles on my front and my back. I'm going to take my back and set it aside for a second. We're going to grab our back piece that shows us where our placement needs to be for our pieces, and I'm just going to line it up, lift this out of my way, and then what I'm going to do is, when I marked all the way around, you could see that marking on the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put the little edge there, the little bottom edge right there. That's all I want to know is where that needs to fall. That sounded really country. Okay. And then I'm going to take my double-sided tape off and I'm going to lay it on there like that. Now I'm going to do one side at a time. So I'm going to go to the sewing machine, keeping this handle straight, and I'm going to start where that stitching, my top stitching stopped. I'm going to start there, go down, around, and back up to where my top stitching stopped. So let's go do that. Alright, so I did put in a thicker needle. What I'm going to do is as I'm sewing around, hopefully you can see this, when I start, I'm going to put my handle nice and straight like that. I'm going to start at this stitch where I stopped right there. I'm going to start right there, go down, around, and back up again to where that stitch stopped. And that way it looks like a continuous stitch all the way around. I am also going to hand crank my machine so I make sure that it's where I want my first stitch. Okay. And then what I'm doing is I'm just following that piece. Let me get this thread out of the way. I'm following the very top one with my foot on that side. So I'm just going to follow it around and stop. Make sure that your needle is down. Now, you're going to need to have your tails be pretty long. We're going to pull this through the back, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a knot, because the handles might get pulled on a lot when we go to do the top stitching. I'm also going to go back through with the needle so that I have a little bit more control, and I'm going to go through with the needle and thread and just do that last stitch on this side and the last stitch on this side. I'm going to do it again with thread and needle, and then I'm going to tie it in the back to make sure that that's not going anywhere, and that already looks 1,000 times better looking at it now. Alright, let me go do the other side and get it ready, and then we can move on. Alright, so I've made my knots on the back side from my last stitches that I did with the machine. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in and up and through that last stitch one more time just to make sure that it's not going anywhere. So I'm going to go through the back and making sure that I'm coming out where I should be. So right there where that first stitch is, I'm coming out, and then I'm going right back down next to it, just like that. And I'm going to pull it through, and if you want, you can do it more than one time. I think that'd probably be a good idea. And then I'm going to knot it in the back. I just want a little bit more stability, just in case. And if you wanted to, you could have taken your sewing machine and done this just back stitching. So I'm going to do this on both sides, and I'm not going to show you again. I just wanted to see what I was doing just to make sure that that stitch doesn't pop out. I've did it 3 times, and then I'm going to make a knot on the back, and then I'm going to go on the opposite side and do the same exact thing. Alright, so we've got the one side on. I'm going to grab this and turn it over and then line this up, and then I'm just going to kind of mark the bottom. You can go ahead and mark the sides if it will help you keep your thing straight. I just don't want to see it later on, so I'm not going to do across the top. So I've got that. Let me find, got my piece. I'm going to take that double-sided tape off and kind of line it up as best I can, and then push it down. Let's go to the sewing machine and do the same thing that we did to the other side. Alright, just like I did on the other side, I'm going to start where I stopped stitching. And I'm going to hand crank it to make sure that I get where I want to be. Okay. Hold on to your thread because you're going to need to hold on to it so that you can pull it through to the other side. If you just start sewing, you're probably going to get that little nest, and it won't pull through on the back. If you've ever had that problem, that's why. You got to hold on to your thread when you first get started. Alright, so I went ahead and hand stitched a couple of stitches here and here just so that this kind of thing won't happen. Hopefully that's enough that it'll keep it from doing that. We'll see when I go to top stitch. Alright, I am going to grab the back panel and I'm going to do the same exact thing that I did to the front panel. I'm going to take my pattern piece, figure out where my pieces need to go, and finish them just like I did this one, and do the hand sewing on the corner so that they don't move, and then we'll move to the next step. Alright, we're in. We've got our front, our back, and our bottom panel. If you want to, you can go ahead and put your purse feet on, but I don't have gunmetal purse feet, so I'm going to leave it as is. However, it would be really cute if, I think they need the purse feet, especially when you can just kind of, you sit them down and they clink. It's really cute. Okay, we're going to take our bottom panel, put it right sides to right side of our front panel, and I am going to clip those in place. And then we're going to take this to the sewing machine, and again we're going to sew it at 3/8 of an inch to sew these two together. Alright, so I have got my stitch length out of 3, and then I'm going to grab my ruler again and my magnet, and so I've got my 3/8 right about there, making sure that I back stitch after I made a few stitches. Alright, now what we're going to do is we're going to change our stitch length to a 4, and what I'm going to do is take the back panel and just open it up. So just like this. So my seams are facing that way. I've just kind of plopped it over, and then I'm going to top stitch right down this side again, like we did with this side. You need to make sure that you're kind of evenly distributing this edge, so you're not like pulling a lot on this side and then not on that side, just kind of steady going all the way across. Alright, now that we have the bottom of our purse sewn onto the front, I'm going to take my back, making sure that I have this bottom piece, and we're going to put it right sides to right side, and I'm just going to put a couple of clips so it doesn't kind of wander off on me. We're going to change our stitch length back to a 3, and then again we're going to get that ruler out and our magnetized, so you can't see a thing I'm doing. We're going to get our ruler out, and then we're going to get our magnet again, just kind of to help us follow along with the seam allowance. Alright, so make sure you back stitch. And then just like we did before, we're going to top stitch by pulling back our back piece. So you want your seams just like the front ones. You cannot see. You want this seam is going towards the center. You want this seam to also go towards the center. So when I fold it over, it just kind of naturally wants to do that anyway. And the handle and all of that stuff is going to kind of get in the way, so just FYI. You're going to have to stop and adjust, and it's fine. Just take your time on this one. You know, I just realized I am doing a 3 stitch instead of a 4, but that's okay. It's on the bottom. Alright. Alright. So we've got the front done. The next thing we need to do is turn this over, and we're going to take our small little ruler and we're going to measure 1 inch all the way around the edges. Alright, we have all of our marks. Next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take our 1/2 inch double-sided tape. Yes, this time it is good to have 1/2 inch double-sided tape. It'll help hold it all in place. So I'm starting where there's an X on this side that hopefully you can see. And then I'm just going to go down to that other X. And I'm keeping these separated so that I can do one at a time. Now that we've got all of this tape in place, I'm going to remove it from one side, and I'm going to start folding in the sides to that inch line mark that we made. And you're going to do that on all the sides, but leave the corners for last, because you're going to have to cut them at an angle. So I'm just going to go up into the corners. Alright, so we're good all the way around. This is the part that I don't like. I always kind of struggle with this, and it's probably more on my perfectionist side that this frustrates me. So what you gotta do on these corners, it is possible, you guys, it is possible. On these corners, we're going to need to push them down together till they meet in the center, and then you're going to take your scissors and cut. I'm going to show you. I've got my good scissors, and hopefully you guys can see. Okay, so I'm going to take my fingers and I'm going to hold this edge right here is going to meet, and I'll try and zoom in so you guys will see it. And then after I do the first one, I'll bring the camera down a little bit so you guys can see. So I'm holding it and pinching it, and then my scissors are going to remain straight. They're not going to go up, they're not going to go down at all. They're going to remain straight. And then you're just going to cut so that you have a corner like that. The edges should meet. I cut mine a little wonky. Alright, perfect. So kind of in the realm of they should look like that. I'm going to put a clip there just to kind of hold it in place till it's time to add it into the fold. Now let me move the camera so that you guys can see it a little bit closer up and see what I'm actually doing. Hopefully you guys can see a little bit better what I'm doing. So I'm pushing the edges together, right? And then I'm just going to kind of finger press it so that these edges right here meet together. Like that. What I'm going to do is, because I'm left-handed, I have to turn it this way. Sorry. So I'm going to keep it together just like that. And then with my scissors straight, I'm just going to cut across there. You don't want to cut too close, too far away. The end goal is to have it meet in the center like that, so that when it's together, you have a nice straight line up into the corner. If you guys struggle with this, you are not alone. This is something that just irks me. But when you put the lining to the outside, it works out. It gets nice and tucked in, and it looks great. It's just looking at it right now, you're just kind of like, oh! It's frustrating because you want it to be perfect, and I struggle with that, and I'm sorry. So let me do it again. So I'm just going to push that down, and then with my scissors, nice and straight, cut straight across, so that it should, I think I cut it a little too far away, but it should go relatively closely together. Alright, one more corner, and then we can start working on the side pieces. Much more exciting. Alright, one more. So make those edges meet up. I think pushing it down actually kind of helps. And then just straight across. Okay, perfect. See how that one is? That is what you want. Yes, queen. Okay. You see how when it kind of goes together like that, that's what you want to see. That one was a perfect corner. Okay, now what I'm going to do is with the clips in, I'm going to go ahead and set this aside, and then we are going to work on the side panels real quick. Alright, so the next step is our D-ring connectors. If you want to find the center, it's roughly 7/8, and you want to make a line down the center. I went ahead and I put a piece of 1/2 inch Decaville light into the center just to give it a little bit more stability, because this is going to be something that's going to be pulled on a lot. And it just depends on what kind of vinyl you're using. If it's a really high quality vinyl, then you shouldn't have to worry about it ripping or anything at any point in the future. However, I feel like Decaville light just gives it a little extra stability, and I like putting them in D-rings just so I don't have to worry about them. Alright, so now we're going to take a 1/2 inch double-sided tape, and I'm going to put it down the center of both of them. And then we're going to obviously remove the paper, fold each side in on itself, and then sew down each side to keep those side panels down. Just like that. So what you're going to do is you're going to sew down, over, and then back up. So let's go do that. So I've got my 4 stitch length, and then I'm just going to go down the sides, kind of following my zipper foot down. Needle down, and then back down the D-ring connector. Alright, so now we're going to grab your side pieces eye. What I did was, in your pattern piece, you're going to need to take an X-Acto knife or scissors or something and cut this little opening right here, and then lay it down on your piece, and then take a pin and make a mark there so you know where your hole is going to be. I'm going to take my X-Acto knife, and I'm just going to open that up so that I can stick my D-ring connector inside. Now you're going to want the part that you folded it over into itself, and there's like an open place right in between these two, that's going to be sticking up, right? So we're going to put it inside of that cut that you just made, and then on the back you should have at least 1 inch hanging over. What we're going to do is we're going to take this to the sewing machine, and don't start like over here or over here. You want to sew on the actual D-ring connector itself. We're going to sew right in front of this little cutout so that our D-ring connector is connected to this panel. You don't want to sew past it, you don't want to sew before it, because when you put this down, you're going to see those stitches on either side. So let's go to the sewing machine and we'll just sew this piece right here. Alright, hopefully Editing Faith can get nice and close so you guys can see what I'm doing without the camera being in my face. So I have got a 4 stitch length, and I am starting right there on the edge of my D-ring connector that I cannot see with the camera in my face, but we're going to do the best we can. And then I'm just going to sew straight across. So you see how my slit is right here? We're not cutting on this side of the slit, we're we're sewing on that side of this. Yeah, words. It's fine. It's fine. And I'm stopping before I get to the very edge of my the edge of my D-ring connector. Okay. So hopefully you guys can see. See how it starts like right before my D-ring connector, and then it ends right before my D-ring connector. If you do any stitches on this side or this side, they're going to end up showing up. And because see, when you put this down, you won't see any of that. So that is what we want. Now I'm going to take and pull the threads through on the back, and then we'll move to the next step. Alright, so both of your side panels should look like this. Now we're going to need 2 D-rings and then a couple more rivets. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of my panels, put my D-ring on my D-ring connector, and then this end is going to get shoved in that little cutout that we put the other end in, right on top of it. And then depending upon how you want to do it, you could have a little bit extra hanging out, but I tend to like to have it nice and tight right there. So it's up to you. Whichever way you want to do it, it's fine. It's not going to be the end of the world. Okay, on your pattern, there is a place for you to do the rivets right there. I tend to do this willy-nilly and just put the rivet wherever I want, but if you wanted to, you could follow the directions and use the pattern that she gives you. And so I've marked it there. That's where my hole needs to be. So I have got my cam snap press out again. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a hole right there. So there's my hole. I'm going to grab my rivet with the stud part, flip it over, and then put my cap on. Just like that. Then I'm going to switch out my dies for the ones that just smush it down. And maybe it will go in. Okay, there we go. Alright, so what I'm going to do is just smush it. Okay, nice and smushed. You're going to need to do that to both of your side panels, and then we'll start working on getting this ready to go on to the main part of our bag. Alright, now that we have got your D-ring and your rivet in, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to grab something to write with and our little measuring tool again. We're going to measure 1 inch all the way down. On both sides and the top. I'm going to have those ready for when we turn all of this inside. Well, when we turn the sides in so that we can have it with fresh sides. And then the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take double-sided tape along that line, just like we did on the other panel. I'm going to stop where it goes crisscross on me, where that X is, just like that. On the other side, got a little bit of a curve there, and then on the top. We're going to do just like we did on the front panel. We're going to take each side and remove the paper, and we're going to make this outside meet that inside line. This is where using those Decoville light or the interfacing pieces really comes in handy, so that the Decoville light is exactly where it needs to be. Just FYI. Okay. And then when you get to the top, we're going to do just like we did before. We're going to make those little corners. I can find my good scissors. Alright, so I'm just kind of pinching that down and cutting with my scissors nice and straight across. Do you like all of my scissors that are on my table? Every scissor has a specific use. Oh my goodness, us and scissors. You should check out my t-shirts on Bonfire, because I have a thing for scissors and I cannot help it. I think you guys would like that one. Alright, so there's my corner. And then on this corner, do the same exact thing. Okay, that one I cut a little too wide, but that's okay. That's okay. We will work it in. Alright, next thing we need to do, we're going to take this and we're going to put these sides together. So they need to match up together. I'm going to use 2 clips just to kind of hold them in place. What you're going to do is you're going to go to the sewing machine and you're going to sew straight across here at 1/4 inch. But before we do that, I'm going to line up this L and I'm going to find the center and make just a teeniest tiniest little clip so that I know where the center is. That's going to come in handy later, but let's go sew this. Now we're going to take this side. We're sewing along this edge at 1/4 inch. I have a 3 stitch length in my machine. And then I'm just going to sew, back stitch, sew. Okay, and cut your threads. I'm also going to real quick on this side burn my threads so that I won't have anything sticking out looking at me. Alright, now the reason I made you make a center mark is that you're going to need to put this seam along that center. And that way you know that you're right smack dab where you're supposed to be. Okay, and then I'm going to clip that with my seam open. Okay, so pulling it apart like you would a butterfly seam. And I'm going to sew it like that so it'll be a little bit thinner to sew through later on. Now I'm going to sew at 1/4 inch. And when I do this, I'm going to make sure that bit of seam there, I don't know why it's pokey, but there we are. Okay. I love this side panel the way that she has it. Now I think it looks really nice, and there's less room for error. When we were doing the little side pieces over here, they just kind of didn't look great. This looks really nice in a purse. Alright, let's get the other one done, and then we'll start putting the main body to the side panels. Alright, now that we've got the side panels done, the next thing that we're going to do is grab our purse main panel, and what we're going to be doing is putting wrong side to wrong side. We're going to be matching up those little notch things that we cut out. I'm going to grab a clip, because when we sew this to each other, all of that is going to be caught up into that little seam, and you hopefully will not see that. So I like to start on the top and work my way down, and then go on the other side and work my way down, and then find the center. So just like that. Let's see. This looks so good. Oh, I'm happy. All right. Okay. Now, when you get down to the bottom, make sure that you butterfly that seam. And then I'm just going to continue clipping around until I get it situated how I want it. Alright, so I've got my side attached, and this is how we're going to sew it, making sure again that that seam is butterflied out. And look how nice that's going to look. Oh my gosh, I love it. Okay, I'm going to pause, and then what we're going to do is I like to take it like this and sew like that, coming down, around, and then back up again. You might find that it might be easier for you to do it with the front side up. I don't think that that's going to be the easiest way, but you do whichever way is easiest for you. I'm going to do it like that. So let's go do that. Alright, so you may be too close. I'm not entirely sure. Hopefully you'll be able to see what I'm doing. So these corners where we had them kind of coming together and cutting into the centers, I'm going to try my darndest to make sure that they're closed like they're supposed to be, both of them. And then when I sew them, I'm going to be sewing them at 1/8 of an inch, and that will crush both of them into each other, and then you won't see any of that, hopefully. If you do your job right, you shouldn't see them. Alright, let's see. Alright, so I'm going forward a little bit, and then I'm going back. I have a 3-stitch length, by the way, to sew all of this together. And you're going to want to make sure, as best you can, that these edges of the side panel and the main bag are together along the edge. Alright, I moved you over there, so hopefully you can see it better when I roundabout sew it. And I kind of needed you out of my face so I could see what I was doing. So I'm just going to go, if you find at any point some of the seams are too thick, like this one right here, with all those layers, you can always take a key fob or something and squish them so that it won't be quite as monstrous to sew through. Ooh. Alright, is anybody as excited as I am? Look how nice that looks. Okay, so what I did was I took my lighter just where the corners are and I just slightly melted them and then very carefully just kind of squeezed them together, and it really made those corners look a lot nicer because I didn't quite sew off the edge. I just stopped. You really need to sew up as close as you can to the edge and backstitch. Alright, next side, hit it. Same thing, we're going to be putting wrong side to wrong side, trying to get these corners to stay in, and then clip close to the top. I think this seam gave me a little bit of trouble right here, so I would definitely like smush that down with your key fob so that it won't be so thick next time, and that's what I'm going to do with the next one. Alright, so go ahead and clip this all up, and then we'll go back to the sewing machine and sew this side together. And the outside of your purse will be all done. Alright, so it is the next day. We're going to start working on the lining. Now, for the recessed zipper placket thing, I went ahead and I cut mine out an inch longer because when I finished my practice one, I noticed there was a lot of room on each side of that placket, and I think an inch isn't going to be quite enough, but I wanted to make it just a little bit longer so that there's not quite as much gap here. If you wanted to, you can make it a little bit longer. It's up to you. But I figured I'd just start with an inch so I don't make it any bigger than I need to. Alright, I'm using waterproof canvas for my lining, so I don't have it interfaced. But if you're using like a cotton or something, you're going to need to interface that. I'm going to take my ruler and want you to measure 1/2 inch on both sides. Then you're going to take some double-sided tape, and again, all I have is 1/2 inch, but I would prefer to have the 1/4 inch double-sided tape. It's coming in the mail today, right when I'm going to finish this video. It's fine, it's fine. Alright, so I'm going to put the tape on both ends, and then what you're going to do is you're going to remove the paper from both ends, and you're going to fold it over. This end right here is going to fold over to that 1/2 inch mark like that. That's what you're going to do on all the ends. Alright, so all that's done. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my zipper, and there are many ways to do these corner edges. I've seen a couple where you kind of fold this over and then you sew along the edge and then you turn it out. I'm going to take my corner. So you're going to fold it down just like that, like back on itself. And then this corner right here is going to come up. So you're going to have to smash it so that it looks like that. So fold it in half, like that, about a 1/2 inch. And then take this piece right here and bring it up. And then you just want to make sure that all of your edges are meeting like that. And then what I'm going to do is very carefully, I'm going to melt this because this is a nylon zipper. And then I'm going to squish it down and it stays like that. I don't have to sew it. My machine would want to eat this. So I don't want to do that. I don't want to have to put stitches in there. So I'm just going to, again, on the other side, fold it in half, about a 1/2 inch. Make this come to meet that corner. So bam, bam. I'm going to hang on to it. And it took me a while to figure this out, so it might take a couple of tries. Okay, so you got it just like that. And both your ends are nice and in place, and they're not going to pop out, so that they'll stay in place when you're trying to put the placket on. Alright, now what we're going to do is we're going to take one of our zipper pieces and we're going to fold it in half. You're going to make sure that those ends meet up, right? And then I'm going to take this side and I'm just going to pinch it down across that side. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this end and I'm going to get it as close as I can to that edge, like that, right? So it's all the way to the edge. And then I'm going to clip down the side, making sure that my zipper is right along this edge, that it hasn't kind of pushed itself inside there. Alright, now we're going to take this to the sewing machine, and at a 1/4 inch we're going to sew along there. Alright, so I have got a 3-stitch length in, and be careful depending upon what needle you're using when you go over your zipper tape, because that curved part is going to be sewn over. Alright, so we're going to take this out and cut all of our threads. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take this and push that zipper out. So just like that, I'm going to take my hand and just kind of pull on it. Oh. And then what I'm going to do is top stitch this together. So I find that it's going to be better to start at this end and make sure that sides are even. I am changing my stitch length to a 4. And so I'm just going to make sure that the sides are meeting up. And then I'm going to make sure my needle is down and pivot. Go to about 1/8 inch. And then what I need to do is take this zipper away from that side, so kind of pull it a little bit. And then top stitch down your zipper. Now I'm going to do the same exact thing on the other side so that I have both of my zipper plackets in place. I'm going to burn my threads really quickly. Okay, now we're going to take the zipper pocket, fold it in half again, making sure that these ends match up, because it's really important, because when we sewed it down, you can see that they're nice and even along here. That's what you want. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to put this end on this side, just like we did on the other side. You can make sure that that edge is meeting up at that center, just like that. Now I'm going to switch my stitch length back to a 3. And I'm just going to sew. Alright, just like we did the other side, we're going to pull this back. And then I'm going to pull on that zipper on that corner. And then you're going to top stitch the sides. I'm going to turn this over just so I can do the sides. It really doesn't matter, honestly. I just want to get these sides to make sure that they match up first. And then just sew all the way around. Alright, so we've got our zipper pocket all ready to go. We're going to set that aside for just a minute. We're going to grab one of our main lining pieces, and then your zipper cover P, we're going to put that in the center of our, I'm trying to line it up on the table and talk at the same time. We're going to line that up on our table. I already have a center mark right here from when I cut this pattern out, so now I at least know where the center is. I have some double-sided tape on the back just so that I can kind of lay it down so it'll stay still while I'm trying to sew it. Alright, now we're going to get our ruler and we're going to measure 1.5 inches down. And I've got it on a 3 so I can kind of see where the 1.5 is. And then that's actually kind of perfect with my ruler to help me center this. So we're going to put the top down first, wherever it looks like it's centered. And then the bottom will kind of lay down with it. Okay, once you have that in place, we're going to take it to the sewing machine. And then what you're going to do is you're going to sew on the outside of it. So on 1/8 of an inch from this outside edge, we're going to go sew that. So let's go do that. Alright, I'm going to start on the corner here, and then at 1/8 of an inch with a 4 stitch length, I'm just going to go around the outside edge all the way around. Alright, so you've got that all sewed up. The next thing that we're going to need to do is make a little clip, and what we're going to do is we're going to, from that little clip we just made, I am going to cut out all the excess fabric on the back. Now if you use a crap ton of double-sided tape like I did without thinking about it, it might be a little bit more difficult. But basically you're going to cut close to your stitches, and you'll have to lift this up a little bit so that you don't cut your vinyl on the other side. So we're not cutting the vinyl, we're cutting the fabric on the back of the vinyl. So inside that little box, see how our vinyl is peeking through now that I'm cutting the excess off? That's what you want. And I'm just kind of cutting close to my stitches. Note to self, don't use a ton of double-sided tape. Actually, it's not that bad because I did it in certain spots. Alright, you can cut a little bit neater like that if you want. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm going to go grab the zipper pocket panel pieces and we will get the zipper all prepped and ready to go. I really like how a lot of bag makers have started making these little like pocket covers. I don't know what you want to call them, but the little covers for the zippers, I think they look really nice and give it a little extra pachow. If you're going to be putting a zipper in here, it just looks a lot nicer. Alright. Let me go grab that and we'll keep going. Alright, so that is all done. We're going to set that aside. We're going to grab our 2 zipper pocket, the inner zipper pocket pieces, piece O. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut our zipper to the length of our piece O. and then wrong side of your zipper to the right side of your lining, and we're going to sew straight across there. Alright, so with a 4-stitch length, I'm going to do an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, and I'm just going to sew the zipper on, or base stitch the zipper on. Alright, now what you're going to do is you're going to take the top wrong side of your fabric and push it away from your zipper and push your zipper down. Just like I've done. And then again, I'm going to sew it again with a 4-stitch length, and I'm going to pull that zipper pocket away from the zipper, but try and get that zipper to stay straight. So pull it apart from each other and then push that down. And you're just kind of sewing this edge down. Alright, so we're going to do the same thing again. I've got my other lining piece with the right side facing me, and then the wrong side of the zipper is facing the right side of your fabric. And I'm just going to clip those together. And then again, I am just going to base stitch them together at an 1/8 of an inch. Okay, and then just like we did on the other side, we're going to pull these away from each other and then push that edge down. So pull them away from each other, pull that edge down. Alright, so we have got those. So the right side of your zipper, you should be seeing the wrong side of your fabric, and on the wrong side of your zipper you should be seeing the right side of your fabric, because it's going to be on the inside, so that when you open up your zipper you'll see the right side of the fabric instead of the wrong side of the fabric. Alright, we're going to grab a zipper, we're going to open that up, and if you don't know how to do this already, I saw a couple of posts and I just wanted to, you can do this on your own. You don't have to buy a zipper jig. I'm going to show you. So all of my sew along videos, every single one of them, I show you guys how to put a zipper on. So if this isn't clear enough, go check out the other sew along videos, and yeah, you'll find out there. Alright, left side in first, right? You see how the zipper is facing? You only want to put it in there just a little bit. Then you take the right side and slide it in there and then push it down. And what's going to happen is the first couple of times, and the zipper tape is the worst. Alright, there we go. Push it down. The first couple of times you might have one edge higher than the other, or one side of your zipper tape higher than the other. You need to take your zipper off and do it again. But basically when you push it down, this edge right here needs to be flat. And then you know that these teeth, as they're sliding along, will be even all the way across. So that's how you do a zipper. If you guys ever have any questions about zippers, I do them in all of my videos, because I know inevitably there's going to be somebody that doesn't know how to do them, and I want you guys to be able to do these, because once you do them, your life changes forever. Alright, so I'm going to again grab this honkin' 1/2 inch double-sided tape, because it's all I got. I'm going to put one on each side. You really should be using 1/4 inch, but that's all I got. So I'm going right across where I sewed my stitches. I'm going on the other side of that with my double-sided tape, because I don't want to see this when I'm laying this down. You don't want your double-sided tape kind of peeking through when you put the window over it. So I'm kind of trying to put it out to the edge as much as I can. Okay, now you really want your zippers to open to the right, close to the left, if that makes any sense whatsoever. But basically this is closing your zipper to the left and then opening it to the right. That's what you want. Alright, grab one of these. Now you're going to want to center this as best you can. Your zipper is going to be larger than that hole. That's what you want. That's how we're going to close up our zipper pocket. So I feel like about 1 inch on each edge, or at least for me, 1 inch on each edge. You want that zipper right smack dab in the middle. So I'm going to press that top down, and then I'm going to lift this up, and I'm going to take that paper off and then just let it fall and then press it down. And then it should be right in the center. It might be a little bit higher, it might be a little bit lower. It's okay, guys. It's not the end of the world, and it takes a lot of practice. I still can't get it exactly even in the center, and that's okay. Now, we're going to go with a 4-stitch length and sew 1/8 of an inch on the inside edge so that we sew our zipper in. Still got my 4-stitch length, and I'm going to go 1/8 of an inch for the edge. You're going to watch your zipper because you don't want to sew over that. And I'm veering in a little bit. Alright, so it should look like this. Now what you're going to need to do is take this top and pull it down, and it is not going to meet the bottom. You're going to clip along the sides on both sides and just try to make sure that it's even across there. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to trim this down. Okay, and then I'm going to clip across the bottom. Alright, now what you're going to need to do is come over to this side, and with your double-sided tape you can pull it back just a little bit, and then we're going to sew 1/4 of an inch around the edges. So let me move you and then we will do that. I've got a 3-stitch length. I'm going to make sure to backstitch when I start. With my needle down, turn it around. Just kind of pull that out of the way. And then cut your threads. Alright, so now we have got our slip pocket piece L. In the pattern sheet it has you mark at 1/2 inch on the long side. So this is the 9 inch by the 8 inch or whatever it is. Again, using my lovely 1/2 inch tape. It's not going to be very helpful. I'll stop whining about it at some point. I just need the mailman to bring me my 1/4 inch tape and I'd be so happy. Oh my goodness, I'm such a baby. Alright. Use 1/4 inch, it'll fold over a lot nicer. Alright, I'm going to remove the paper, and then I'm going to take this edge and fold it up to meet that line. Okay, now she wants you to take this with the long sides that are folded in, and then fold it up just like that, and then you're going to want to match up the sides and the top. I'm going to grab a couple of clips and just kind of clip them on the side. I'm going to take this to the sewing machine real quick. Now, with the open edge on the top, I'm going to go with 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, and I'm just going to base stitch with a 4-stitch length and just go straight across there. Alright, so that's done. Next thing we need to grab is our pattern piece N. And what I did was I went ahead and put a center line right down the center, and then I figure we just need to play a game of take a sip of something every time I complain about having 1/2 inch double-sided tape. Alright, so you don't want it to show on the outside, but I don't need it right in the center either. Ugh, it's so frustrating. Okay. Put your double-sided tape, use 1/4 of an inch on each side of that line, right? Okay. I'm going to take one side off, and then I'm not going to put it in the very, very center. I'm going to have it like, just like not even 1/8 of an inch, just a little tiny bit away from the center, because you want this to fold over, and if it's directly in the center, it will be really hard to fold over. And then take your paper off. Now we're going to fold it over. Your pattern piece N will be larger Then the actual pattern piece itself, that's fine. We're going to cut that off later on. So now I'm going to take it to the sewing machine with me, and we're going to top stitch all the way across here. Alright, so I'm going 1/8 of an inch from this edge because we want that top piece to just be on there and stay onto our slip pocket. So I'm sewing and then back stitching right on the edge. Alright, let's take this to the table and then we will cut it down. I've got all that done. I'm going to move these clips just a little bit and then flush with that edge. I'm just going to trim it down. I am also, this vinyl is actually really nice. I'm going to put just a little bit of melton and then squish it very carefully. If you decide to melt your edges, just kind of squish it. On the outside it looks really nice. I don't know. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Some vinyls do not melt cute, okay? So you might want to test your vinyl before you decide to do something like that. Some vinyls just look burnt and other vinyls just kind of like melt into each other and they look a lot nicer than just leaving it raw. Alright, there we go. Perfecto. Alright, now we're going to grab the other lining piece, your other main lining, and at 1.5 inches, this one I do not have a center for, so I'm going to make a teeny tiny notch real quick. Sometimes I make one and then I use the one that I just cut out as a template for the next one, and that's why I don't have center lines on all of mine. Alright, so I'm 1.5 inches down. My center is at the number 3, or at the 3 line. I'm going to take my slip pocket, and I'm going to try my best to center it. I know it's not going to be perfect, and that's fine. Alright, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my hand right to here, pick all this up, and then take it to my sewing machine. Alright, got my panel in place. I'm going to do a couple of stitches forward, 1/8 of an inch from the edge, and then I'm going to go back, because you guys know slip pockets get pulled on a lot. So I would do 4 to 5 stitches and then go back and then forward again. Try and make sure that this isn't like moving around so that your slip pocket stays straight. Alright, so we're ready to start assembling our lining. I've got both of my side pieces, I have got both of my piece K's, and then I've got my zipper pocket. What I did with my zipper pocket is fold it in half, and then made a little clip, and I did that on each side so that I can find the center of my main lining panel. On my main lining panel, I went ahead, folded it in half, made my little center mark. That way I can match these two up. These I'm not going to put center marks in. I'm just going to kind of clip them in place. They'll be fine. First things first. What do you want to see when you look down into your purse? I think I want to see the zipper. So let's start with the zipper side. I want my zipper to close to the left and open to the right, right? So I'm going to put my zipper pocket in just like this, and if I do it just like this, when I look into my bag, the zipper is going to be what I see. I hope that makes sense. I just, visually there's no other way to do it other than just say, which panel do you want to be in the back? I've done this enough that I know that that panel is going to be in the back. So I'm going to clip that together, and then the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take this to the sewing machine, and I'm just going to base stitch this in place. Alright, in the pattern she has you separate these, but I don't want to do that just yet. I don't want anybody getting confused over which piece is going to which side. We're going to keep everything together for a little bit just so that nobody gets confused. I'm going to take one of my piece K's, right side to the right side of my pocket, and I'm going to start at the edge of my lining and start clipping that together. Again, you could have made center notches and then just kind of met everything up, but I'm just going to put it straight across there and it'll be fine. So we're going to take this to the sewing machine, and I'm going to double check, but I think it's 3/8 again. We're going to sew that on. Okay, also, take your piece K's, I believe that's the letter, your top panels, and you want to make a center line down the center lengthwise before you put it on here. I completely forgot that step, so make sure that there's a center line here. It'll be a whole lot easier to do it now than it would be to do it later, so make sure that you do that. Alright, so our seam allowance is 1/4 inch. I went and double checked. So we're going to sew down with, I've got a 3-stitch length, 1/4 inch. Alright, next thing we're going to do is I am going to switch my stitch length back to a 4. We're going to pull this top panel back, and again, when you're sewing it, try and make sure that it's staying even along here. And you've got kind of like the same pull going all the way down. I have a feeling, a sneaky suspicion, that I need to check my bobbin. Come on, baby. Get all the way across. Come on, baby. Give me enough thread to go all the way across. Okay, if you're at this step, you might want to check your bobbin because you're doing a lot of top stitching and you want it to look nice. So I'm going to check my bobbin real quick and then we'll go to the next step. Yeah, it was time to change the bobbin. Alright, now that that's done, I'm going to grab my other side panel, the main panel, and I've got my center mark. What I'm going to do is put this right side down. I'm going to grab this zipper placket right there, and I am going to clip those two together. And I'll show you in just a second how it should look. I don't want you guys getting confused about what goes where. That's why I'm trying to keep that zipper like right together. Okay, so it should look like this. You're going to have the side of the zipper on this side that we're going to work on, and then the one you just made. So now you can see when you look inside your bag, when I open this up, you'll see your zipper first. Alright, now that I've got this, I'm going to go ahead and base stitch this on real quick, and then we will take piece K and clip it on just like we did on the other side. Alright, so this is nice and base stitched on. The next thing I'm going to do is grab my piece K again, and I'm going to start at the edge, clip all the way down, and then we'll take it back to the sewing machine and sew it together at 1/4 inch, just like we did on the other side. Flip it back and then top stitch, just like we just did on the other side. Alright, so everything should look like this. So when you look down in your bag, that's kind of what you're going to see. Now what we're going to do is we're going to match up these two right here, and I'm going to clip at the seam so that they stay together. Okay. And then you're going to clip all the way down this side, the very bottom, and the other side. And then we're going to take that to the sewing machine and sew at 1/4 inch seam allowance and sew them together. I have got my stitch length at 3, and then I'm just going to make sure that I'm back stitching really well up at the top, and make sure that you're back stitching really well at the bottom. Alright, so I went ahead and cut the strings. I don't know if you can see it in the video, but I just kind of went from one end to the other, kind of like chain stitching everything. The next thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to open these up, line up that top seam there, and close up these sides. Now I'm going to be having my seams on the outside going to the left, and the inside seam needs to be going to the right, so that they butterfly seam together and they're not right on top of each other. That creates a lot of bulk. Now, that side, that seam is going to the left now, so that needs to stay going to the left. The outside one needs to go to the right, so they're right on top of each other, like that. And we're going to go back to the sewing machine and we're going to sew at 1/4 inch and sew these edges shut so that our lining is all enclosed. Alright, I've got my 3 stitch length. I'm just going to kind of shove that out of the way. We're going to do a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Alright, so now we have got our lining all ready to go, and hopefully you have done the center lines down on both sides of the top of your piece K. Now we're going to take double-sided tape, and this time I'm thankful that it's 1/2 inch. Alright, I'm going to turn this around so it's a little bit easier. And not on the seams, but like right before the seams, I'm going to start my double-sided tape. And I'm just kind of going right across that line. And I'm going to do that on both sides. Okay, now I'm going to take the paper off and I'm going to grab some clips just to kind of hold it in place. Alright, so we're going to take this edge and meet up with that line. And with it not having been interfaced, it's so nice. It's so nice. So I'm going to go just to the corners of the ends, not all the way down where the seam is, just close to that seam and put that down. Now I'm going to go on the other side and do the same exact thing. Alright, when we get to this side, this is what we need to do. We need to split this open, just like that, and then fold it over so that bulk is kind of like smooshed out and the layers are not like all on top of each other. Alright, same thing. Smush it out, fold it over. Alright. My lining is all ready to go on the inside of my bag. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to open this up because that'll make it a whole lot easier to get it where I want it. Go grab your Decaville Heavy, or if you're using Peltex, we're going to go take care of that real quick. Alright, so I have got my Piece G Peltex. Since I'm not using the heavy duty Decaville Light, I'm going to use Peltex, and what I'm going to do, because you can't really interface it to the inside of your bags, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a couple of rows of double-sided tape. And this time I am again thankful for 1/2 inch. Alright, so I'm just going to kind of randomly put it up here so that it will stick to the edges of my bag while I go to put everything in place, just like the Decaville Heavy would. The Decaville Heavy works really nice, but so does the Peltex. So if you don't normally like carry that, Peltex is a really good stabilizer. If you need a purse to kind of stand up and salute you, you can use that. Decaville Heavy is better, but I just don't keep it in stock, and I really probably should. Okay. One more. Let me grab the outside of my bag and I'll show you how I'm going to put this in. Alright, so I've got my purse. What I'm going to do is I am going to, with the double-sided tape face down, I am going to put this inside of my purse so that it goes below that 1/2 inch mark where we folded over our top. And then I'm just going to kind of make creases in the bottom of my bag with my fingernail so I can see where it's going to be. And then do the same thing on the other side. And then push it down. And you need to make sure that this is centered in your bag. So not more going this way than going this way. Okay, and then again I'm going to take my finger and just kind of, I'm taking my nail and I'm just kind of going across the Peltex so I know what should be on the bottom and what should be on the side. Okay, I'm going to take it back out, and you see I've kind of got that crease. I'm going to do it with my fingers. Okay, now we're going to take one side at a time. I'm going to take the tape off, and I'm going to put it in one side of my bag. and I'm going to put it down right below that 1/2 inch mark and make sure that it's right where I want it, and then just kind of push that double-sided tape in. Then you can take off the double-sided tape. I know it's going to be really hard to see because it's like everything's in the bag. It's in the bag. I'm taking the paper off of the bottom portion, if it will come off today. There we go. Alright, so now I'm going to push that bottom portion down, just like that, and again making sure that it's straight, even. There's not more of the Peltex going that way than there is that way. Pull the rest of that double-sided tape off, or the paper off. You want the double-sided tape to stay there. Alright, again, I'm going to right underneath that line, and then I'm just going to smush them together. Now we can add our lining. Alright, now we can move on. So I've got the Peltex in there. I went ahead and put a bunch of clips on the edges so that when I drop it in, we can go ahead and we'll have our clips there and ready to go. And I have to cut my zipper tape down, so just ignore me. Alright, front of the purse, right? We want the zipper, when we go to look into our purse, to be on the back. So it needs to be on that side, if that makes any sense whatsoever. Alright, now it's the tricky. So I'm going to start on each of the sides, and I'm going to try and get as centered as I can and just start clipping around. You're going to have to adjust some of this, and that's fine. You're going to have to just play with it. The way that I started doing it, I just started in the centers on the side, and it helped me kind of figure out where everything needed to go. So I'm going to try and get it straight. Alright, so my battery cut off. Alright, here's where we're at. I've got all the sides. You're probably going to want to clip as much as you can. I know for me, when I do drop in linings, it's really hard for me to not have either the lining or the outer panel kind of shift on me. So the more clips you use, the better off you'll probably be. And we're also going to drive slow because we want to make sure that this looks nice. You're going to want to sew it like this, not... You know how sometimes you can take it and you can kind of put it down like this and then sew it? It's just not going to work like that. We're going to have to go around. I'll show you when we get there. You're also going to kind of have to move these handles out of the way, and just be careful not to pull too hard, because we don't want to pull these stitches out either. If you have a cylinder arm, you should be good to go. I'm really wishing I had a cylinder arm right about now, but that's okay. We can do this. Let's go to the machine. Alright, so I've got you guys kind of on an angle, so hopefully you can see how I'm sewing it around the edges. We're going to start in the back with a 4 seam allowance, and I am maybe go ahead and get one of the handles out of the way. Like I said, this is going to be difficult with these handles, but we can do it. I think with my first one, I took them and I bent them down to get them out of my way, and I think this time I kind of want to just shove them to the side as I'm working. I don't know. I'm going to figure it out. We're going to figure it out. I just don't want to pop those stitches. Okay, 4 stitch length. Ugh. I think I need to show this to my husband, and maybe it'll be enough of an excuse for him to get me a cylinder arm. Well, I can wish. Alright, drop in has been dropped. I love how fancy this purse looks. It's fancy. Alright, now we're going to work on the zipper. Mine is a little bit longer. I wanted to give myself a little bit more tail. I am going to cut this down eventually, but what I'm going to do again is we're going to put a little bit of the left hand side, a little bit of the right hand side, and then push it down. If it's straight across there, you've done it right. And I do like that extra inch. Let me go grab the other one. So if you can see, hopefully, if you can see what just an inch did, it gave me a little less gapping like this one. So just an inch. It really covers a lot more in the purse. You don't have to do it. Follow the instructions. Go for it. Alright, next thing that I need to do. Alright guys, so what did you think? I hope you guys liked the video. I hope it was clear. I hope all of the directions that I gave you guys were clear. Hopefully. I hope you like this bag because it really is cute and it really does come together once you know what you're doing. It really does come together very quickly and it really looks nice. It looks so fancy when you get done with it. I think definitely make sure that you put those little extra stitches in there. I noticed when I was doing the top stitching and a helicopter going by. Alright, let's try that again. So when I was trying to top stitch this the first time, I took the handles and I went like this, and I noticed it put a lot of strain right here. So when I was top stitching the second time, I kind of like moved it to the side just a little bit, top stitched, and then kind of moved it back. You don't want to put too much strain on those. I think the extra stitching that we did actually helped a lot, so I would highly suggest you take the extra time to do that. The double rivets I think are going to make sure that the purse handles stay in place. It made me feel a little bit better because I know if somebody's, fills it up with bricks like we normally do, I don't want the handle coming off. So I think the double rivets is a good idea. It's up to you, whatever you guys want to do. The handles on the purse are very cute and I really like the water piping because it really does give it a different feel. You know how when you're just kind of using piping it's kind of limp? This really holds that handle up really well and I really like that part of it. I think it's really cute and I hope you guys liked it. If you did, make sure that you check out the description down below. I'll have Mekaposh's store down below. Make sure that you check it out. She does have a couple of purses. There's one that I really want to try. It's got a bow on the front. It's adorable. You gotta go check out her store. And most of her bags, from what I've seen, and the two that I've done, the construction is kind of similar. And so once you get that down, the purses they're so cute. They're sturdy. Like, I don't know how else to say it. It's really sturdy. Like, it's not one of those purses that you sit down and then it just kind of like, bleh. You know what I mean? But she just stands up on her own. So, Go down in the description, make sure that you check out Mekaposh's link to her website, check out her other bags while you're there. While you're in the description box down below, make sure that you check out the other links that I have down there for you because if you are a collector of scissors, as I am, you might find a shirt that you like. Don't forget, we do have merch now. Go check out the shirts down below. Let me know if you like them or not. I need some feedback from you guys. So in the comment section, go check them out. Come back to the comment section and tell me what you think about them. And thanks for joining us on Faithworks Designs. Bye, guys. I almost forgot. Okay. When I was reading the instructions, I missed it because it was an update. But if you wanted to take some clips and take your corners together like this, and you know how when you have a bag and it's kind of like rolling in on itself, you get that corners out and then you put a clip on top of it just to kind of hold it in place. That's what you're going to want to do with the corners of this bag, just like that, so that it'll have kind of more or less that shape on the edges instead of kind of bowing out like mine is. I will have some pictures. I will go ahead and post them here so you guys can see them, but that's just one of the notes that I got after I was finished with the bag that I needed to show you guys. So make sure you don't forget that.